Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narsimhan. The focus this evening on this special edition of The Right Stand will be the discussion around the Samvidhan. On the occasion of Samvidhaan Discussion, here on The Right Stand, we'll try and explore whether or not our constitution, our Samvidhan, needs to evolve for a Viksit Bharat to take shape. Because the constitution is the overarching doctrine, viewers, that will direct Bharat's path. And are there certain insertions from the past which need to be amended, and do certain fresh insertions and amendments need to be made for the path ahead to be charted in the right direction? Now in 2015, in the 125th, on the occasion of the 125th birth anniversary year of Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar, the government declared November 26 as the Samvidhaan Discussion to celebrate the principles of governance. Our Samvidhan stands for. For the next 40 minutes, like I said, we will discuss how the Samvidhan can be our ideal guide on the Viksit Bharat journey. Now, from granting universal adult franchise in the 1950s to providing for progressive judicial interpretation of rights, the Samvidhan has been instrumental in fostering inclusivity, empowering marginalized communities, and promoting gender equality. The Samvidhan is a sacred document that can't be measured through the prism of politics. It belongs to every citizen, to every Bharatiya, irrespective of caste, class, community, religion, region, gender or language.
हमारा संविधान हमारी राष्ट्रीय अस्मिता का ग्रंथ है। ये हमारी राष्ट्रीय पहचान का ग्रंथ है।
The soul of our constitution has proved that Bharat is one and it will be one forever.
Let's try and understand. The original preamble on the 26th of November 1949 stated, "We, the people of Bharat or people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, democratic republic and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, to promote among them all fraternity." This is the original preamble of Bharatiya Samvidhan adopted on the 26th of November 1949. And viewers, time and again here on The Right Stand, we have said that the original preamble did not have the words secular and socialist. These were forcefully inserted into the constitution, as many would maintain, when the nation was in emergency, when democracy was in jail and fundamental rights had been totally compromised. Should the evolution of the constitution work towards erasing those that doctrinally limit Bharat's economic policy? Because dharmascha moolam artha, that means the way our economic policies are will directly depend and directly influence whether or not we are able to do right by society, follow the dharma of a nation and its governors to try and perform for the people. And that's the reason why this question comes out. Now, the other thing, 42nd Amendment Act 1976, during emergency period 1975 to 77, the preamble was changed, words socialist and secular were added, sovereign democratic republic was changed to sovereign socialist secular democratic republic. Words socialist and secular which were argued to be not relevant to the doctrinal entity defining Bharat, because it was inherently Bharat was secular, inherently the word republic itself meant that there was a certain level of democratic following and that it was secular in nature. And Pandit Nehru himself, as chronicled in this book 1947 to 57, India, the Birth of a Republic by Chandrachud Ghosh, very clearly says said that although his intent was socialist, he didn't want it inserted because he didn't want to impose any economic thought vision on Bharat. Unity of the nation was changed to unity and integrity of the nation. Well, there were a few amendments that happened thereafter in the 43rd and 44th Amendment, but the fact that the preamble was altered, that was never touched or changed again. Now, does that restrict our evolution, or has Bharat moved beyond that, or have these words so far been debased to that extent that they no longer hold the relevance with which they were actually inserted during the time of emergency? Now, does the Samvidhan need an evolution for a Viksit Bharat? Let's try and understand this also, and then we'll go open it up to our guests. These are a few points to ponder, viewers, few points to ponder, and whether or not these should be taken up for an active discussion. Should the terms socialist and secular that were inserted during the emergency in 1976 continue? Or do we need a rethink and a relook towards our preamble so that it does not doctrinally restrict the nation's policy, because there are certain characteristics which are already inherent? Should the nation not have the flexibility to pursue a certain level of socio-capitalism, certain level of welfareism, or economic policies as relevant to the time and the growth curve of the nation? Socialist sits literally uneasily with a modern competitive economy, replacing it with concepts like economic freedom, liberal economic system, and open market principles could better reflect Bharat's current economic direction. Or should there be a word which says that we follow artha or economic policy that will sustain the nation at that relevant point in time and leave it open in terms of a liberal economic policy, balancing minority rights with local realities? Bharat cannot and should not remove minority rights, but it can refine how minorities are identified. Should minorities be defined at a district level or a local level, regional level definition, not just based on religion or panth, but also based on language and what happens to the linguistic minorities? Now, Hindus, for example, today are minorities in many districts across Bharat, and in in many states, including certain states of Northeast and also the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. So, if there are minorities there, should they not have minority rights? So, that's another question. The other part, uniform gender rights beyond personal laws. Women's rights should not vary based on personal law. When it comes to gender justice, then there has to be an equanimous platform, and that should be enshrined in our constitution, many would argue. We'll open that up for discussion. Practices such as child marriage permitted under interpretation of Islamic law, or as certain people are saying, reduce the age of marriage to 14 or 16. Should all of this not be very clearly defined that no, as per science and as what is healthy for both gender, the age should be the same. The age you can drive, the age you can get married should be the same for both gender, and it should not be swayed by individual personal laws of various faiths. Introducing decolonization in the preamble, or other words that do away with the colonial mindset completely, is another suggestion that is thrown up to try and really remove colonial era residue in terms of laws, administrative practices, in the lexicon, in mindset, and overall doing a complete reset that Bharat will stick to what is Bharatiya and not what is a foreign imposition. Strengthening the uniform civil code instead of complete sudden UCC, a phased approach could be constitutionally mandated, starting perhaps with gender, then inheritance, then guardianship reforms, before moving to the other two, to ensure social harmony and also equality before law. Judicial reforms, perhaps more important than ever before, to stop judicial corruption, to ensure judicial probity and to ensure judicial accountability. 4.8 crore plus pendencies. All this, should this now be explicitly said that the judiciary, one of the pillars of democracy, cannot be above scrutiny, external scrutiny or independent scrutiny. It cannot self-audit itself. It has to open itself to scrutiny. Reforming governors' powers. The discretionary powers of governors, often sources of center-state tension. Should that have clearer constitutional boundaries? This would prevent misuse during government formation and dismissal. Simultaneous elections, or the push for one nation, one election. The constitution can be amended to synchronize Lok Sabha State Assembly elections, or as has been recommended by the Justice COVID Committee, and follow that in the true spirit. so that this entire cycle of never-ending cycle of election and policy making only influenced by election, doles being given only for election, all of this stops. Decriminalization of politics. Can this be comprehensive that anybody and everybody who have cases, unless they are either acquitted or cleared of those charges, cannot campaign? Campaigning of elections also, should there be a certain level of transparency that anybody and everybody can contribute? Let those documents be public. Nobody will judge them based on the contributions, but the limits and how much is being spent should be absolutely transparent, and that capping should not be removed. Electoral bonds, etc. These are aspects. Should there be a constitutional debate, and should that be enshrined in our constitution? These policies of how people will be represented and what will be the rules that will govern the representatives of people. Revisiting the 10th schedule, the anti-defection law is another suggestion. Can this be possible through a healthy parliamentary debate? So these are laws within the constitution, fundamental principles that could come into effect. There are other aspects too which we will come to in a bit, but largely these are going beyond the obvious. That's the attempt.